Hey! So this is a reading for Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus. Okay, so we have the Chain of Destiny. I watch my thoughts because they become emotions. I watch my emotions because they become words. I watch my words because they become actions. I watch my actions because they become character. I watch my character because it becomes my destiny. So we have the Ten of Pentacles as the overall energy. I have my goodness, the Empress, Libra, Taurus energy, the Emperor, Aries energy. The High Priestess. These cards do not want to be picked up. Cancer, Pisces energy. The Emperor, more Aries energy, the Three of Pentacles, and the Eight of Wands. The underlying energy, the Hermit. Getting that someone has become really kind of like self-aware of the totally different parts of themselves. I get that there are three energies here, and we'll go back to this in a minute, but we're just focusing on the you right now. I feel like there's a part of you that is very maternal, and, you know, you can show up with compassion and nurture other people. And there's also a part of you that feels in control of your life. Like you really are growing and changing, and you're kind of getting things together. But then in the undertow, I think sometimes you also recognize these almost like controlling tendencies. Because, there's two different emperors here. Obviously, this one is a beautiful energy, and this one is a puppet master. And I don't feel like you think you're a puppet master. You just know somebody here is realizing that they have some like weird tendencies when it comes to controlling a situation or controlling situations. So it's almost like there's obviously this very light aspect of oneself where things are pretty integrated. And then every once in a while, there's this undertow, this actual shadow side here. So someone is really paying attention to this, though, to see how they can integrate this part. Maybe for a long time, they tried to deny this part of themselves. They were only maybe seeing this as, and now it's like, maybe it's the moon, sort of, because this is a pretty crazy moon. Maybe it's making someone really pay attention to their own shadow. But not in a way to deny it or look at it like it's a bad thing. I think to truly understand it. With the Three of Pentacles here, it kind of seems like attempting to integrate all these parts and then move forward. Because this is a, heavy contemplation. I mean, this overall energy is the Ten of Pentacles. Someone, has a specific goal set in mind with this, and it really comes down, because this Chain of Destiny card is here, it comes down to, paying more attention to when they're going through a certain, mood or, swing, and, the things that they say or do when they're in there. Like, the character that comes out there, why does that happen? I think somebody is paying attention to the fact that perhaps they were raised kind of this way, too. They could have, had a parent who, for the most part, was very nurturing and loving and caring. But then there also was this other side of them, right? Where it was just angry and maybe a little more controlling. So that, it's like understanding where you got it from, where that programming is from. Then no longer looking at it like it's a terrible thing. It's just a part of me. It's a fear that I have. And that's why I act this way. So now I need to watch acting that way because it's not appropriate, at least not to me. But I do kind of get that, someone is accepting that, someone used to speak to them like this, or this is how someone used to cope with their stress or anger. And so it really is programmed, this is, observation and imitation. But obviously as an adult, this can cause some issues if you flip into this energy here. So when it comes to healing, I don't know how to say it, Cancer, but this is exactly it. So, I feel like the whole thing that could be happening here is that some of you could be in this really good relationship for the most part. You look at this Emperor and Empress that are together here. It's growing, it's evolving. For some of you, and definitely not all, you could be planning a family here, the Ten of Pentacles and the Empress, and you feel like, this part of you needs to be looked at before that happens. You don't want to, make the same mistakes as someone else, but also that you need to have this relationship really harmonious and, you have to work together with this person, but they're, what I just really like how self-aware it is. Like someone, I have Strength at the bottom here after the Hermit. This is Leo energy, realizing that you need to be more in control of your behavior and your attitude towards things and how you speak to other people, even when you're in the worst of moods or triggered. There could be something about this other person in your life where they are so different than what you're used to. Maybe you have needed to do this in other relationships, kind of get a little bit controlling and sort of just know what the hell is going on all the time and, push for answers and things like this because of the, you may have dated people who sort of reflected your shadow side, So I think that there's a point here where it's this person is not these people. I can't act like this. And it's really mature and grown. Tell me about the Emperor. The Nine of Pentacles in the reverse, the World, the Four of Wands, So this could be deeper than even just, like things said and things like that. You could have had a parent that was like super dependent or was easily controlled as well. As the Nine of Pentacles, is a card of independence, and this is close to having the devil. And I think these are the parts of like a family life or like a marriage that you don't want. It's like learning also, not, it's like knowing that you have parts of yourself that act like this parent. Obviously, everybody acts a little bit like their parent, even if they don't want, even if they don't want to admit that. But this is really understanding that you have to close out these old weird ideas. And I think that it really comes down to dependency or like codependency. It would be like me looking back at my childhood and, I say things were pretty tough there, that the upbringing wasn't great. Like, maybe my mom wasn't like a bad person, but she was really dependent on whoever she was dating. And even though it was toxic, and things were always out of line, they just stayed together. But there wasn't really love there. Like, it's like they did love each other, but they didn't know how to love each other. And you refuse to bring someone up in that, or to, marry someone and it's just based off of that, you know what I mean? This need to be with someone, this, I want to say need. There's an independence that you feel like you need to have completely, where you never feel like you are being controlled or that you're trying to control someone else. There's a lot of thought to this. It's really kind of interesting, but I think that it really mostly comes back to, thinking about how you were raised and whether you find that appropriate or not, which it's looking like no, and being real with yourself. This person deserves the softest version of me, whoever this Empress is. The softest version of me, period. They don't deserve this hard ass, over controlling, over dominating side of me that just comes out when I feel threatened, or threatened is, I think, the appropriate word. So this is cool. Now tell me about the Empress. The Four of Cups, the Ten of Wands, the Chariot, some Cancer energy. This person does not actually see you the way you see you. You know what I mean? So, sure, you might get a little crazy sometimes, but I think this person is very understanding. They don't see you as crazy as you see yourself. It's interesting that, you want to change an aspect of yourself. It's a part of yourself you don't like. Maybe you think this person hates it too, or they feel some type of way. I don't think so. I think that they would protect you from anything. I mean, look at the card. And in their mind, you just get stressed out, and, I think they don't really think anything of it. It's like, they like how things are going, it's like, I think this person would do anything for you, and maybe that's why you feel like you need to change. It's like, why am I being so tough on this person? And they just really, would do anything for me, It's like, the relationship is actually solid, it's stable, it's happy, so I want to change this part of me. But some of you wonder if maybe, this person feels like they deserve better, or they think the worst of you or something. No, I think they fully understand, And with that being said, you're right. They probably do just deserve this soft, best version of you. There's just nothing, they're not throwing up red flags. They're not doing anything crazy. And I think these are just things that you really pay attention to, which is beautiful. Any specific advice I feel like the Chain of Destiny card already was the advice that you've already given yourself, but we'll just see if there's anything additional the cards want to say. The Two of Swords, the Seven of Cups, and the Devil. I think it's saying like you always have a choice. There's always a different way to cope with something. There's always a different way to look at something. When you look at this Two of Swords, which is also like, I think when the Two of Swords is always a card of not having all the answers. You can see her eyes are covered. She has to use these two different birds, intuition and experience, to try to like figure things out sometimes. When you get confused, I think that's when you feel threatened, if you're not getting like constant reassurance or something. But there's always a way to choose to cope better. I think, just you looking at the shadow aspect is already going to change it, but maybe this is saying, instead of just trying this on your own, maybe looking up some, different ways to like cope with things. Or I think mostly, it's more about you looking into it and the fear around not being sure and what starts to happen after that. So I think for a lot of you, if you feel like it's just hard to cope with certain things, you don't even know why you get into that energy or why you act like that, Google. Really look into it. Like, hey, is this something, that I resonate with and this might help? And just go from there. Because I think for everybody, it's like they're highly aware right now. They might need some help with the actual changes, or they're just not sure where to take that next step. And I feel like it's saying, you can just pay attention to yourself in those times. If it's like, I only feel triggered around a certain time where it's like I'm trying to ask somebody something and they're just not giving me the clarity, and now I just blow up, then really looking at that source and saying, okay, this is the problem right here. So how do I, work with this energy and not get so crazy? Anyway, I'm out of here. I feel like I'm just going on and on now. See you soon.